Alright, what I've got here is just a piece of tag board, manila folder, because they're cheap. I usually get spares from work. It is 3.5 inches wide, and it doesn't have to be any wider than that at the widest point. The gun is, you want to always check and double check to make sure anytime you're making a holster and you have a firearm out that it's clear. The only firearm that doesn't need to be clear is the one you're wearing. So, that being said, safety first. Chamber's empty. I can visually see the chamber. I can visually check the magazine. I always have the magazine in the gun, just in case. I don't need it in this case, but I don't want to lose the magazine either. Alright. Always, whenever you're dropping the hammer, make sure it's pointed in a safe direction. So, here we got just our paper. I know that I need to have room for my big fat fingers to fit. So, I got to make sure that I leave enough room up top here. And I need about 3/4 of an inch or to an inch right there. And this is really, we're not looking for absolute perfection here. I want the gun at a little bit of an angle. Not very much. And it looks pretty good right there. So I'm going to hold the pattern and the gun. I'm going to take my pencil and I'm just going to draw a line across the top and around the trigger guard. And now we have, very simply, just a quick outline of the gun. From there, we're going to take our ruler and we're going to measure the width of the slide. In my case, it's an inch. I'm going to have to come out from this line half that distance. And you know, I learned to go an extra eighth, just because to add for the thickness of the leather. This is not a cut line, so I'm drawing this line at 5/8. It's going to be my stitch line, and I'm going to do a dotted line here. Now down on the bottom here, up to about the bottom of the trigger guard, I need the same distance. So I'm going to do the same 5/8. And again, dotted line. Now the trigger guard, this is where it gets a little tricky. The trigger guard is about 3/8 of an inch wide. So here I only want to go half of that. So I'm going to go 1/4. And coming around the curved part, you want to measure it in several different spots. Now, I've seen people take and do these slide holsters where they'll just draw a line and call it good. And I don't know. I like to be, that was my phone. I like to be a little, I don't know, a little more dressy up than that, I guess you'd say. So, now we have our stitch lines. And we need to figure out how far back we need our belt loop, the belt slot. So from this part of the gun, we're going to have to put our belt slot almost to the back edge of the grip there. So I'm just kind of laying inside my pattern, and there's no set rule on this. Because nobody's made one. And I'm just going to measure at the top from the stitch line over. I've got 1 inch and 7/8. So I'm going to do the same over here, just for symmetry's sake. Now my top edge, I did make sure that this was a square edge, so I can lay my ruler right up on that square edge. And I want to come down at least 1/4. Well, I'm just going to draw a line all the way here. I want the belt slot to be 1/4 of an inch wide. We'll do the same over here. So that's where we're at so far. I know the glare is kind of a drag here, but we need good lighting. It's very important. And beyond our stitch line or our belt slot, we need to go another 1/4 of an inch to 3/8 of an inch. I stick to 1/4. If you're beginning, you might want to give yourself a little extra room and go 3/8. And the only reason you need to have some space there is on this holster I'm not going to stitch around the belt loop, the belt slots. It's not necessary. The glue that I use will hold it very well. I haven't had a problem with one yet. But there will be a stitch line in between them. That's where a 1/4 of an inch comes in. Alright. So pretty much that's our pattern laid out. There really isn't a lot more to it. Now our belt slot, my belt is 1.5 inches, but it's a thick belt. So I want to come down at least 1/4 of an inch from the top. And the closer to the top that you have your belt slot, the better it's going to hold to the body. So I'm going to come down 1/4 of an inch, and that will be the top of my belt slot. And again, there will be a stitch line across the top here, which I'll mark out in a little bit here. And then from that, I want to go 1 3/4. All these seem like a lot of details, and there is. But, you know, from here, we can do some other things to kind of add a little interest to it. We could move our belt slots down a little bit and create an arch here and a little down on the bottom, which is what I did on the one for my llama. But I want to keep this as basic and simple as I can. So what I'm probably going to do is shorten it just about a 1/2 inch, shorten the whole holster up a little bit. Because it really, that's a lot of holster for it. I do like having a little extra though. So, again, all my edges have been squared up, so I can use them all. We'll just take off that extra 1/2 inch down there. Don't want to cut my mat has seen better days by far. So every cut that you can make on here with a straight edge is to your advantage. That's pretty much it. I'll round off these corners, but that's going to be it. I may move the slot down a little bit so I can get a little more rounded edge up here, but that's really it. Doesn't take much to round that off. I do like to pencil it in. You can use something else to, you know, help you keep that round, but I don't know, it's pretty close. I'm happy with it. Down towards the bottom, I think we'll just maybe a little more interesting. A little bit more interesting. Let me cut some of that corner off. And again, every time you can use a straight edge is the best. There's no need to rush anything. And we'll just freehand these corners. here we are. That's going to be our slide holster. So next video we're going to look at how we cut that out of the leather. I'm going to do this in sections and pieces, and hopefully all my editing comes together and everything works out okay. So that'll be the next one, and we'll cut it out. Thanks for watching. Stay safe, and God bless.